Okay, let's go ahead and get started there, everybody. Welcome back to another 1 p.m. PST YouTube stream. I am your host, Strange Bro Jim, and today we're going to be getting back into some more Pega certification studies. We have some more Unreal after that, or, in around 2 p.m. PST. We got some videos to make public at around 3 p.m. PST, and then of course at around 4 o'clock we got Honkai Star Rail. So if any of that interests you, then stick around because we got all that lined up for you today. Um, now, um, so let's obviously get into Pega certification studies. What is it? Who am I? Why am I doing it? So on and so forth. So, a little quick introduction about who I am. I'm currently an unemployed software developer whose last job was with the Pega environment, working with the Pega environment. My last job, we were given an authorized training partner who, with a team of about 20 people or so. And well, it wasn't really working out for a lot of us, if not pretty much most of us. A lot of us went pretty much self-study, going through the Pega Academy to try to learn because we weren't really getting much out of the trainer. Um, and just so you know, he was even messing up with some of his coworkers as well. So it wasn't just, you know, we were having problems with him. His own coworkers had issues. So, um, so yeah, we had a rough time with it. A lot of us, including myself, asked to be put back into another training cycle with a different Pega authorized training partner. But that never happened. They didn't do that. They pushed us straight into the well, they pushed us to do the certification, and they also pushed us into the contracts. So, um, when they pushed me into trying to take the certification, I knew that I wasn't ready because I was still in self-study at that time, and I knew that I wasn't ready. I failed it. I mean, I got close to the minimum, but I mean, close isn't good enough, right? You have to hit that 65% mark. But I missed too many questions, and well, not enough to get the minimum. So, um, but the thing was that I wanted to learn what Pega was all about, and obviously I wasn't getting really much out of the authorized training partner on that. So, um, so went to a um, went into a contract. Hoped for more of a mentorship, but that never happened either. So, but when it came right down to it, it fell on my shoulders to get the certification, and I have not been able to get it yet. So this is my attempt to do that. Continue studying through the topics, studying through the material to the point where I will take the certification on my own dollar again in the hopes that I will be able to pass it, get my certification, and start applying for some jobs in Pega as well. Um, Pardon me, I gotta blow my nose. Be right back. Okay, sorry about that. Okay. So back to my experiences. Um, so yeah, I got some work to do to try to get to the certification, but we'll get there. Okay. Now, if anybody's watching these videos and you're expecting, hey, you must be an authorized training partner, or maybe you're an instructor led doing this training. No, neither one of them apply to me. I'm working towards my system architect certification, so I'm neither an authorized training partner nor an instructor. If you want to do the instructor, um, one would hope that it's led by, Pega Academy because you know, it's hosted by them. So one would hope that that it's members of the team in Pega Academy. But know that the instructor-led training is going to be a very short training period, and so it's going to be very jam-packed of information. So you're going to want to make sure that you take a lot of notes, take a lot of video recordings, and ask a lot of questions because, if your end goal is to get that certification, then paying $5,000 for the training is not going to be cheap. So make sure that you get your money's worth out of it. Okay? So, just giving you a heads up on that. Um, so yeah. Now, concerning the business architect, okay, these two missions, two modules, we've already covered all that. Okay, I have that in my playlist. The two missions, two modules, they're in my playlist. They're already done, so you can go back and review them if you want to. But just bear in mind that the likelihood of me coming back to the business architect probably is slim to nil. That's not my end goal. My end goal is to get that system architect certification. So I don't really want to do anything with business architect personally. Okay, my main focus is wanting to do more with the system architect. Um, Now, if you are trying to go for the business architect, then I would recommend that you take the Pega Express delivery mission as well, because these two modules here are supposed to cover this, but I don't think they cover it very well. So at least go through the mission here for the Pega Express delivery. Also, I'm currently going through 8.7 because of the translations. So that if anybody's, watching me, that is, Japanese, maybe you can understand spoken, but you can't really read the English language, which is perfectly fine, of course. Then, maybe, this will help you out. You know, um, my main goal for these videos is more um, if I have any questions, then I hope that someone from the Pega community that has the experience can answer them for me, because I'm going to have some problems here and there with the topics. Um, and maybe that might give you, the viewer, a little bit of benefit on that as well, because not only do you share in some of my insights that I've had, um, but maybe you can get some information from those answered questions as well. So, um, but obviously, if you're working for 8 point and with 8.8 or the 23, then obviously there's going to be topics and changes that have not been, that are different than the 8.7. So just bear that in mind. So. But we're going to continue on with the system architect. We finished off a challenge yesterday, so we're going to be moving on to a new topic. I have not received any kind of emails lately, but again, they're, they're probably in like the Christmas holiday season, so they're probably very preoccupied with just having a good time, relaxing, which is perfectly fine. Um, I would hope that after the New Year's rolls around, then my questions, my suggestions will be answered at that point, but we'll have to wait and see. Now, we are going to be going into the managing application access. Um, we got two topics here: application access, access control, and of course the module quiz. So we'll just go into the application access and we'll go from there. So, application access. The persona defines how users align with an application in terms of business outcomes. A role defines how users interact with an application in terms of specific tasks. Roles determine what users can and cannot do within the application. Assigning application users to specific roles enables users to perform their work during case processing. Assign a user to a role to specify how that user interacts with an application. For example, in healthcare application, patients and doctors must perform different tasks. Define different roles for patients and doctors so that individual users with the appropriate role specified can see the correct user interface and access the desired application features. In the following image, click the plus icons to explore how Pega Platform uses roles to define permissions in an application. So, role. When you create an application, 4 roles are created by default: admin, author, user, and manager. Create additional roles if a unique combination of the user interface, page permissions, and routing is required. Work can be routed to work queues, which are lists of all open assignments for a group of users. Assignments are tasks that users perform. Each newly created role has its own work queue and set of permissions. So, administrator. An administrator role has the permissions required to maintain an application in production. Author. The author role has permission to create new users and roles, so users with the author role can see those actions in their user interface. Users with the user role can create and work on cases. They cannot modify the application. Users with the manager role can see the work of those that report to them, aka, authors. Doctor is an application-specific role created for a hospital application. Doctors can check patient records, prescriptions, and add follow-up comments for patients after office visits. Patient is an application-specific role created for a hospital application. Patients can check records and schedule appointments. So here's the thing where it's like, you would think that patient and user would kind of be along the same, umbrella, you might say, because, patient might be someone that might actually, start up a new work item, and maybe use, whatever's inside of it, setting up everything, at this very start, uh, putting their information down, and then, um, the admin of the hospital will kind of take that and work with it a little bit. But then again, maybe their users here is technically um, the admin of the hospital. But it's hard to say because again, they're using, default roles here, but, you know, with a, hospital application that might have, user might have a little too much access, depending on what's going on there. So, um, so I would, well, yeah, they give you the four default roles and stuff like that. It might be best to, list out who, you know, list out actual people that have, very specific roles in the hospital. Um, and then, organize them and give them various tasks accordingly because, doctor and patient is clearly not enough to handle a full-on hospital. So, um, you know, maybe administrator might work, but unfortunately, the administrator in Pega platform, tends to have a lot of power to them. So that's why I'm saying, like, probably want to, um, create your own roles depending on the application itself. Okay, because these default roles might not necessarily fit with what you want people to be able to do. Okay, like you know, the administrator says, has permissions required to maintain an application in production. That's a lot of power right there. Okay, so trying to give, a hospital administrator, like the desk clerk, that might take the patient and stuff like that, giving them the ability to modify the application from their particular desk might be a little too much. They might change something that they're not technically a developer of said application, so um, they may make a change to the application that might not necessarily be approved of. You get what I'm saying. Um, so it's you have to be very careful with these roles and what they can do. So each role has a default channel interface that defines which screen a user will see upon logging in. Channel interfaces are also referred to as user interfaces. You can associate roles to Studio channels, App Studio, Admin Studio, and Dev Studio, and web channel interfaces, user portal, or application-specific channels such as Doctor Portal. So, um, so here you have, user, manager, doctor, and patient. You have the user portals, you have the doctor portal, and you have the patient portal, and the number of users there. Again, personally, I don't. I feel like, depending on the size of your hospital, obviously, like you have 15 doctors here. That is not a small. That's not necessarily a small hospital. It's not necessarily a huge hospital either, but it's still a fairly decent sized one, right? So, and each one of these doctors might have their own special tasks that they might need to do. They might have very specific roles to them. So, you might want to have more of a different persona for that particular topic, right? Like, you might have ER doctors, right? So maybe you want to have a persona for ER doctor, and then you split the 15 users up with, the ER doctors. Like, most likely you're probably going to want, um, you know, uh, I mean, there's 8-hour shifts, you know, um, so, that's, 3 doctors per day, you know, and if you want them to have a minimum of 5 days, you know, then you're probably going to want to have more doctors than that, right? So, just so yeah, obviously, obviously it's dependent on this, on what you're dealing with right at this moment in time. But, just, obviously patient probably wouldn't be too, um, might not be too big of a deal. Maybe you want to have, different types of patients. Like maybe you want to have like maybe, cancer patients, or maybe, um, maybe they're just in the ER or something like that. You might be able to split that up if you wanted to. But of course, that might be a little messy if you have like, a patient that might be kind of fitting in like different parts of the hospital overall, you know. So um, it might be a little concerning with that. But at the same time, um, if I'm not mistaken, a person can have multiple personas, multiple roles, if I'm not mistaken. So, I mean, why not, right? So, okay. Role-based access control model. Application and data security are major concerns due to risks of customer loss, data breaches, and legal and financial penalties. You can satisfy common security requirements by controlling the application features, functions users can access using role-based access control. With role-based access control, you can configure access by defining roles with the desired authorization and privileges. Configuring appropriate access control is only one aspect of securing an application. For a complete list of securing leading practices, consult the Security Checklist Awareness module and the Security Checklist for Pega platform deployments. Access control depends on two factors: authentication and authorization. Authentication confirms the identity of a user and verifies that the user is allowed access to an application. In Pega platform, the record for the operator ID allows for authentication of a user. Authorization determines what data the user can view and what actions the user can perform. In Pega platform, the records for the access group and application allow for authorization of a user. In the following image, click the plus icons to learn about the records that facilitate authentication. User. Each individual user of an application is associated with an operator record, which is displayed below. Operator record. The operator record describes the user's operator ID, which a user uses to log into the application. For example, this user uses the ID manager at APPL to log into the APPL application. Access group. The operator record references one or more access groups, which grant access to specific functionalities within an application. While an operator record can reference multiple access groups, only one access group is active at a single time. When a user signs in, Pega Platform identifies the default access group and opens the corresponding application. For example, when the manager at APPL signs in, Pega Platform identifies managers as the default access group and opens the APPL application. Access groups and access roles. You can create multiple access groups that reference the same application to achieve different levels of access control. Access groups in Dev Studio align with the role that developers can assign to users in App Studio. An access role categorizes users according to their job function. Each access role represents how a set of users interacts with the application to create and process cases. For example, in an application for managing purchase requests, any user can submit a purchase request, but only a manager can approve a purchase request. Um, so, your user can submit, but a manager can approve. Each access group references one or more access roles. By allowing references to multiple rows on an access group, Pega platform encourages the design of a modular application security model in which you combine granular roles to meet complex security needs. For each access role, you configure permissions to control actions on instances of a specific class, such as the types of cases that a user can create or modify. If the roles referenced by an access group provide conflicting access control configurations, Pega platform applies the most permissive setting across all the conflicting roles. In the following example, a manager belongs to an access group that includes both the user and manager access roles. The manager access role allows users to approve and submit a time-off request, while the user access role prohibits approval and submission actions. Because the manager access group references both roles, members of the access group can approve and submit time-off requests. So I'm not quite sure what the difference is between submit time-off request and create request is all about there, but yeah, whatever. In the center of the following image, drag the vertical line to view the differences between an example administrator access group and a user access group. So, um, so here you have the administrator, which has a lot of available roles, default portals, or available portals, the name of the application that they're in, and what version that they're a part of, right? Or what version of the application, right? So, and of course your user, you don't have nearly as many available portals. You just have the user portal, and that's it. And then of course your available roles, you have the user versus over here you have the administrator and the security administrator. So in the admin side of that. So okay, so now we just need to check our knowledge here. An access group includes three access roles. Role A grants users the ability to run reports. Role D does not grant users the ability to run reports. And role O grants users the ability to view reports. So based on the permissions allocated to the three roles in this access group, which roles can run reports? I mean, role A is the only one that can run reports. So no, that not all users can run reports. That does not work. All users in the access group except those in roles D and O can run reports. Okay. Here's the problem with this topic, this phrasing here. All users in the access group, except for those in roles D and O, can run reports. Obviously, this is the right answer that they're looking for here. Okay, because in order to run reports, you need to be in role A, right? But here's the thing: they don't state outright that every single user, you know, all the users are automatically given role A as a default. They don't state that. Okay, so saying that all users That shouldn't be true. So all users in the access group except those in roles A, well, that's obviously not true, so we're canceling that one out. All users in the access group except those in role D can run reports. Well, the problem is that role O can view the reports but not run the reports. So again, this one doesn't work either. So all three of these don't work. So this is the, wait, what? While roles D and O do not grant users the ability to run reports, which is what you're asking for, when more than one role is listed on an access group, the permissions associated with other access roles are considered. Um, what do you mean? Are you saying that this one is the correct answer? No, okay. What? Huh? Why in God's green earth would you want to? Then what's the purpose of roles? If role D shouldn't allow you to run reports, but because you're in the access group, you're still given the ability to run reports anyway, then what's the point of having roles? What is going on here? What? Huh? Okay, I need to ask them on this one because what the hell? That doesn't make any sense whatsoever. So the question at the end is very confusing. What is the purpose of roles if having different roles with different um, abilities gets ignored if they are in the access group. What? If role A is the only role that should be able to run reports, then they should be the only people that can run reports. No one in role D, no one in role O, and definitely not all users. So what is going on here? This makes no sense. What is the purpose of roles if you are going to ignore the permissions in the first place? That's wow. Uh, it's like, it's like here's all your different roles, but if you're saying that everybody inside an access group has all the permissions anyway, then you're basically saying that the patient has the same permissions as the administrator. Is that what's going on here? What? It's like, um, they're stating that, the access role here, you know, uh, has the ability to, you know, approve and submit time off requests. But I mean, if they're in the same access group, then that shouldn't be the case. The user should, they're basically stating down here that it doesn't matter, anybody in the same access group will have all the same permissions. It's like, what? What? I I don't know. Okay. I'm that that last question confused the hell out of me. Um I don't know what they're what they're going on with this about. It makes no sense to me whatsoever on this one. You know, especially when it's like, up here they're talking about like, hey, manager has the ability to approve and submit time off request while the user access role permits approval and submission actions. Okay, but are they still in the same access group? Because I mean, you know, if they're in the same access group, then you're basically saying down in here in this question that, they still have the same kind of permissions. So it's like, oh my gosh. That is a really messed up system if they're basically saying, hey, here's three roles, but because you put it into one particular access group, you now have, every single role has the best permissions out of them all. Oh my god. My brain just. Why on God's green earth would you want to have these three different roles into the same access group? Especially if you're saying, like, hey, which users can run reports? Well, apparently all of them can if they get put into the same access group. I mean, oh, Jesus. Uh. Uh, all right, well, that's going to be it for the Pega certification. We're going to go ahead and switch on over to the Unreal study session. We're going to be doing that in just a minute. I'm going to go ahead and shut down the video. Hopefully you enjoyed this. Again, that's like, oh my god, what the heck? But we'll cover the next topic tomorrow. Hopefully you enjoyed this video. Give it a like and subscribe. Um, we'll continue this again tomorrow, so look forward to that. But I'm going to go ahead and shut off the video here in just a second and move on to the Unreal. So if you're watching right now and you still want to, stick around with me, for the Unreal study session, then stay right there. We'll be back in just a minute. So be right back.